What's going on, squad? Welcome back to the garage. I am your host, Q, and this is the Truth Be Told podcast. Chat. I am doing a 3-part mini-series, and this mini-series is going to be called Just Hear Me Out. This mini-series is going to consist of 3 parts that bring up corporate America as it pertains to the entertainment industry. And the first of the 3 segments is going to be about Diddy. So stay tuned. Check me out. Yo, what's going on, squad? Again, welcome back. I'm your host, Q, and welcome to segment 1 of the series, Just Hear Me Out. And this is going to be about Diddy. And the reason why I'm doing this is because for those of you that may know me, my beginning started off with music, production and writing, along with groups and things of that nature, and it progressed over into filmmaking. So I have a good idea, a general idea of what goes on in the industry, and in this particular case that I'm going to be speaking in terms of what may have led up to the downfall of Diddy. So let's go back to not too far back, but just go back to the late 1990s, early 2000s, where Bad Boy Records had gotten an imprint. Now, back then, you had to consider that Puffy, who had come up working for MCA, Uptown MCA under Andre Harrell, has gotten his label deal with Bad Boy and was able to sign some major artists. Now we're going to fast forward a little bit. Let's talk about Puffy's roster. Now Puffy's roster consisted of, at the time, as time progressed, Notorious B.I.G., Faith Evans, Craig Mack, Mace, 112, The Lox, Shine, Carl Thomas, Boys. He even had New Edition at one point. Who else? Black Rob, French Montana, Machine Gun Kelly, Janelle Monáe, Cassie, The Band, Danity Kane, Day 26. It's a long, impressive roster, and you have to keep in mind that during that time, Puffy had a lock on the urban music industry, and I mean a lock, because all the talent was on that side. Let's not even bring into play the Uptown MCA portion of it, which was Mary J. Blige, Jodeci. Like literally, Puff had a lock on the industry, and he was making a lot of money for the corporate industry. People were buying CDs. All of us were going out to Best Buy and Walmart and buying those $17 CDs. The industry was making a lot of money, and Puffy at the time was at the helm of this enterprise. And so we all know America to be a very capitalistic country. It's about money. And if you're bringing in new money to these corporations, then all is well. And that's exactly what he was doing. So early on, by Puffy having a lock on the urban music space, that left a lot of room for corporate America to advertise and market to that urban music space through Puffy. So he was used, I won't call it a scapegoat, but he was that figure that was being used at the time to market to the urban music consumer. And it was a lot of us. So fast forward, music's being sold. He starts his clothing line. He has Sean John clothing line. He opens up a couple of restaurants in New York called Justin's. What else? And in 2007, so in the earlier part of the 2000s, he had signed a deal, a joint venture deal with Ciroc, well, with Diageo, where he would be the face of Ciroc. And now he's into liquor. He's got music, he's got clothes, he's got liquor, he's got restaurants, he's on top of the world. Now, if you fast forward to where we are right now in Puffy's situation with all the allegations and the freak-offs and so forth, you have to ask yourself, why now? Why all of a sudden is all of this being brought up right now? And again, this is my perspective and just me bringing a little clarity as to what may have happened to Diddy and why his downfall is happening at this particular point. We went from buying CDs to burning CDs. And once that situation that came about when we started burning CDs, nobody was out. Very few people, were starting to purchase CDs anymore. So case in point, let me just explain to you how protected this man was and how much he meant to corporate America. If you can all go back to that time where Puff had that incident at the nightclub where he was with J-Lo and Shine and so forth, and Shine had taken that bid for the gun allegations and what happened inside of that nightclub. Now, it's already common knowledge that Shine has already said, hey, he didn't do it. He took that fall for Diddy. Here's the thing. Somebody was going to take the fall for Diddy because corporate America was not, and I repeat, corporate America was not going to have Diddy go to jail. He was in charge of a vast majority of the urban music consumer space. If Puff had went to jail at that time, that space would have imploded, which means there would have been a loss of a lot of money at the time. So protecting him was in their best interest because you're protecting your cash cow. So all of the freak off allegations, the wild parties, the eccentric parties that were going on didn't start in 2023 or 2024. They were going on back then. But the reason why they never went reported, nobody ever said anything, no allegations had ever come up, because the corporate America was protecting that man because he had the industry on lock. Now, if you fast forward to the point in which CDs are not being sold anymore, it's getting harder for the labels to sign artists. There are a lot of artists that are going independent. Chance the Rapper, he wasn't signing no deal. He was going independent. You had a lot of artists that were going independent without entertaining the signing of record labels. So now the record labels are losing their footing on new money. You still had the publishing from the older artists, but as far as people signing to record labels at this time in the urban space, it was dwindling out. So now Puff is in the bit of a pickle because now you don't own the space anymore. You don't have control of the artistry. You did for years, for a couple of decades. You ran it. He ran it. But now the footing was being lost because people were burning CDs. They weren't buying records. It got to a point where even with the clothing, nobody's buying Sean John clothing anymore. The only thing that was left in which he was bringing money to corporate America was Ciroc. He had a couple of restaurants in Ciroc through Diageo. And as we all know, at this particular point in early part of 2024, he filed suit against Diageo citing racial discrimination. Diageo wasn't happy with that, and so they pulled the plug on it. So now there's no music, nobody's buying the clothes, and there's no face of the liquor anymore. So at this point, you got to understand that Diddy was of less importance to corporate America. You don't have access to the people anymore. And you're riding that wave off of the old money, but there's no new money coming in. And if there's no new money coming in, what good are you? This is what corporate America thinks. As much as we as consumers love the music and we still vibe with the music, nobody's buying it anymore. So you're not offering corporate America any new ventures that are allowing corporate America to make any new money. That is why he was no longer protected. So early on, when you never saw any allegations come up, you never saw him, he was never in threat of going to jail because he had a shield around him. He had a corporate shield around him. And now that corporate America doesn't see him as a cash cow anymore, they're not coming to his rescue. They're not protecting him at all. In this current situation, Diddy has filed an appeal for bail 3 times, and he has been denied 3 times. This man is currently sitting in jail and apparently will sit there in jail until May, until his trial comes, according to the news. That's a long time, but nobody's coming to your rescue. And we have to understand that with the climate that we live in today, in the country that we're living in today, it is about money. It is about money coming in, and who do you have access to? What part of the country do you control? Because if you are no longer in control of any geographical area or cultural footprint of the country, then you have no use to us. That is why corporate America is no longer protecting him. That is why he is completely vulnerable right now. It's not to say that corporate America pushed him in the situation that he's in. What happens is the money, the fame, the ego allowed him to get into that space. Corporate America protected him from any consequence of what he was doing. But now he's making them no more money. They're not going to protect him anymore. So it's just sad to say that he's in this predicament that he's in right now, based on the fact that you had a machine that was shielding you from any form of scrutiny that would land you, where you are right now. So again, it's just one of those things where now they're looking at him as a liability. And as long as he's being looked at as a liability, they are going to let him fend for himself in that jail. Get his own lawyers, spend his own money, do whatever time that is going to be allotted to him in that particular situation. Corporate America is no longer going to come to his rescue. I hate to say that, but that's what I gather from everything that I know, going from back then leading to right now. It only makes sense. I think that he was hanging on by a thread with Ciroc, with Diageo. But the moment he went to file that suit against Diageo, ties were broken. It's the same thing that happened with Kanye. You're making corporate America money, and then all of a sudden you do something that makes corporate America mad, and then they remove all ties from you. And once they remove all ties from you, then nobody's talking about you anymore. They're not pushing your projects. They're not pushing your products. They're not pushing you as an individual. So I say that to say this. For those of you that are in the music industry, who are producing music and starting your labels, do right by people. Stay away from, I know it's easier said than done, but stay away from the drama. And if you can make it on your own and you don't require anybody's additional financial support, then don't take it. Do it on your own. Because in that particular case, you are doing it under your own terms. Believe in your product. because you'll get to a point where corporate America will pull you into a room and say, hey, if you want to go further, this is what we have to offer, but here are the rules. If you sign yourself to that situation, then you signed yourself to the rules. Again, this is not just Diddy. He's just the subject of this particular segment. If you think about Death Row, if you think about Suge Knight was on top of the world. Then he got Dre. But when Dre left, guess what? Death Row was imploded. So guess who had no more worth to corporate America? Suge Knight. Remember, as much as he was doing, he probably should have been locked up. But he was protected because he had a very large footprint in the urban music space until he didn't. And when he didn't, corporate America just let him fend for himself. That's why him and Diddy are in the same predicament right now. At least not the same predicament, but I think you get it. Let's just make sure that we educate our children, educate the youngsters, educate the new artists, find more and more ways to educate them, being able to make themselves marketable without the danger. This is not the lifestyle that I think you guys got into the industry for. It's not the life you wanted to live. But guess what? You're fighting a monster. You're fighting a corporate monster. And it's all about the money. And the moment you become expendable to the point where you can be easily replaced, or you're not making any money for the corporations, then there goes your downfall. Keep that in mind. This was Q's perspective. But again, I want to thank you again for joining me. Until next time, I'm out.
Back and I'm better than ever. I think I got a vendetta. Oh, now they call me, I seen her.